Now what we're gonna do today is I just want to show you how when you have modeled your character, you know, or your object, your asset, whatever it is you're working on, when you've kind of modeled it, what do you do at the end before you start to UV? Because a lot of you I'm seeing, you know, are getting into modeling and learning some stuff, making some small mistakes, running into some errors, but pretty much going through it pretty well, you know, and that's really good. I'm really glad to see that. And soon you're going to be at the stage where your thing is pretty much modeled in a detailed form. None of you are making anything super crazy that needs super microscopic details and stuff, and we don't do that in Maya anyway. But a lot of you will be at this stage soon enough, right? But there's still some things we need to do here just before we start coloring it and doing all this stuff, and that's called optimization and cleanup, right? So cleanup is essentially getting rid of any kind of extra errors, any kind of issues that we haven't seen, any kind of invisible points and stuff like that. So let me turn off that shadow so it's a bit faster. Let me delete all my type history so we get rid of any issues, and let me do a save as clean up optimization. There we go. Right. And I just want to talk about some of the issues you might run into, some of the errors you might encounter. And unfortunately, I've modeled this with very few errors to my knowledge. So it is going to be a bit tricky, but worry not, I'll put in some myself anyway. So a really quick thing you can do to just check if there's any errors, you can select an object, a single object, and you can go up here to, let's see, mesh, and then here you have this button called clean up. Now if you just click it by default, it's going to do stuff like this, which we don't want. It's going to start adding triangles and stuff where there's some little problems, and we don't want to do that. What you want to do is click the option box for cleanup. And what this is going to do is give us this little box here, and this box tells us what kind of fixing we want to do, right? So for example, the operation clean up matching polygons. So we actually don't want to clean them up. We don't want it to fix our problem. We want to fix our problem ourselves. We just want to know where this problem is. So we want to click select matching polygons. Okay, matching by what though? Select matching polygons. Matching by what? Well, if you scroll lower down, you have stuff like four-sided faces, faces with more than 4 sides. So remember when I said things need to be either quads or triangles. Well, if there's anything that's more than that, it will be selected. Faces with holes, non-planar, non-manifold. I'll explain what these are in a little bit. But let's just start with faces with more than 4 sides and click cleanup. So what it's done, it's selected all of the faces on my model which have more than 5 sides, right? And for example, this back one I wouldn't have even noticed, but when I look underneath, it's like, oh, it actually does have a line coming into it. So it is actually made up of more than 4 sides, made up of 5, because this extra point is here between these lines. Here, of course, where we did this little thing, this has like more sides because of it. This here has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as well, so more than that. You can see what it's doing, right? It's pretty straightforward. So what do we do now? Well, we could like deselect and then go in and find each of the faces again and fix them up. What I like to do is when I do this operation, I then click up here, this button, the isolate button, and this is gonna, let me turn off my symmetry. This is gonna isolate the pieces that do have a problem, so it's easier for me to spot them again, right? Now actually I'm gonna leave symmetry on because both sides are the same, so when I fix one side, it's gonna fix the other. So let's fix this first. This looks really weird and tricky, but all we need to do is take a line from the top to here, and now this is 4 sides and 4 sides, right? Really simple. What about here? Well, this is 5 right now, so we don't want that. We want this to be less. We want this to be 4, and we can delete this one in the middle here. That's 2 triangles. Now it's 4 as well. 1, 2, 3, 4. This one's a little triangle. I think I'm gonna leave that as it is. I think, should I leave that as it is? Is it flat on this side? Yeah, it's flat on this side, so we don't need this little point here. I'm going to put this point like that. And if I wanted to, I could delete this again to just keep it as a 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. But since it's like this weird inner shape pointing thing, I'm gonna leave it. Now we still have this though, so this is creating a 5 shape, and I'm just gonna clean that up really easily, just like this, and now it's fine. Yeah, so this is completely fine. And actually, I could even do this. I could delete this, and now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. And at the back here, we have these ones that have a line for some reason, and we just don't need this line. But remember that if you just press delete, the points are going to be left behind, which is still going to leave these as being separate. When you're deleting an edge, if you want to delete the points as well, you need to make sure you're holding Control and then pressing delete. And that's going to get rid of the points as well, right? Now, you saw that I wasn't worried about the inside. That's because I actually want to get rid of the inside. I don't want to keep it. So I'm going to do just that. Go from here, here. I'll get rid of these. I'm not going to keep it. I'll get rid of this. I'm not going to keep it. These insides as well. That didn't work. Bam. And I'm just going to get rid of the first kind of layer of stuff. Because when you double click on an object, it selects that object's island. That means everything that's touching the thing you double click will be selected. Obviously, these are 2 separate pieces, so they're not touching, so they're not going to get selected. On the inside, now that I've kind of cut off the border of this inside cap, it's not touching the outside anymore, and I can double click the inside without affecting the outside and delete it a little quicker. That's a little trick for you. Alright, so we fixed all these little issues here. Let's do our cleanup again. So go mesh, clean up. It's already set to our settings, clean up, and there's nothing. Nothing's selected. How do you know that something has been selected or nothing has been selected? Let's go here, let's make a little error. Let's do this. Alright. Now, up here in your windows, you can go to let's see, which one was it? It was heads up display. Oh, sorry, not Windows. Display. Go to display, heads up display, and here you have this thing called poly count. Your poly count is how many points, faces, edges, all of that are in the scene, how many you've selected, and all of that. So let me turn that off. This is what your scene will look like. That doesn't have anything in the corner here. If you go to display, heads up display, poly count, it's going to show it. So right now, in my whole scene, visible, I have 8,000 triangles, which is, we measure the resolution of 3D objects as triangles. You know, yes, they have also vertices and edges and faces, and the faces are actually squares, you know, quads, but we measure the resolution of 3D objects in triangles, right? That's just a rule, right? So you can see that, you know, this is everything I have. When I select one, it's going to tell me how much it has of everything. So the helmet right now is made of 494 triangles. The whole object is made up of, you know, the 1,000, the 8,000 here, which is a good size for a kind of not too high resolution little asset here. Now let's select this helmet, go mesh, clean up. And what it's done, actually, let me try that again. Let me delete the history first. Delete the history, and let me again go to mesh, clean up, default settings, clean up. Right, and what it's done, it selected these, and I don't know why, but what it's done, when it selects something, you will be able to see here that it's actually selected something, right? It's going to show up. Now, I think this is giving me some kind of error because I added this in here. Now it's just having a hissy fit. So I'm just going to delete that and try that again. Clean up, right? And you see it doesn't select anything when there's no problems, right? So let me select another piece. These are pretty simple objects. I don't think they'll have any problems. Let's try this one. Clean up. No, this one's fine. Try this one. Nope, this one doesn't have any. I've been pretty careful with how I've modeled this, so there's not any errors. But you will have errors occur. And also, there are two more things you can check for if you go to the menu again. So one of them is faces with more than 4 sides. Another one you can check is this thing called non-manifold geometry. So if you've made some kind of thing with a model where it's gonna be impossible to calculate, you know, something like that, then you take this non-manifold geometry and you clean up, and then it's going to select the pieces of the model that have some kind of problem with them. Give me just 1 second. Okay, I'm back. Right, so sorry about that. So we can see like it selected these points for some reason. So let's take a look at this object and see why it selected these points. There shouldn't really be any problem with them. And sometimes you will get little selection that kind of don't really make sense. So I'm going to look at the vertex faces of this, see if there's any problems. There's not any problems. So I'm like, okay, this is fine. It's just made a selection for no reason. Now, let me show you a really good example of an awful non-manifold geometry. So one rule for 3D is that yes, you can have extrusions, you know, like this. You can have extrusions on edges and stuff, and you can do stuff like that. But what you can't do is have an extrusion coming up from an object like this. So if I do this, and I'm going to save because I think I might die, this is illegal. You cannot do this. You know, it's not like a book. So this is like totally not okay. You can only connect things to their edges, and they cannot be one edge cannot be connected to multiple things like this, right? And if I select this and I do mesh cleanup, it's going to select these 2 points, telling me there's something that cannot be folded. Non-manifold geometry. There's something here that cannot be calculated properly, and that's what non-manifold geometry is. It cannot fold properly, essentially, in 3D. It has some kind of issue, and that's just the main example. You might also run into something that's kind of like has a lot of points going to the same spot like this, and being very sharp and having this kind of problem. And sometimes it might pick up on something like this that has loads of points in it as a bit of an issue. Anyway, that's how you can check for cleanups. You should do that for all of your objects in your scene before continuing, and get rid of any kind of errors. You know, make sure you've cleaned up all the quads. Make sure you don't have any of this going on. Make sure you don't have any of this going on, like these empty vertices that aren't doing anything, that you forgot to hold, you know, a button for. You know, to get rid of these, it's very simple. You just select all of the vertices like this, and you don't press Control, you just press Delete by itself, and it's going to get rid of them, only the ones that are free and not doing anything, right? That's how you get rid of those. Other issues you might run into, I'll show this on a cube because I don't want to mess with this thing right now. You might have accidentally grabbed a face and pressed Extrude, and then forgotten, gone to work on something else. Then you come back, and what's actually happened is you haven't realized it, but you have a face here like this that does that, right? So that's a thing that can happen, and you can notice this if you running into some errors or trying to put on an edge loop, you know, and it's like you might not even notice it. But if you select your model and you hold right click and you go to vertex face, you will have these little lines appearing in the corners like this. And these are those kind of invisible edges that you have when you've done your extrusion, you know, because extrude is meant to do this. It makes a face there, which then you can pull out. But if you forget to pull it out, it just stays there, right? So if you ever see these kind of lines in the corner of your objects, this is where you've kind of forgotten an extrusion or a bevel or something. And you just need to select a point on all of them. This is how I do it. There may be other ways to get rid of them. You select a point on each of them, you hold Control, and you hold right click, and you go to faces, and it's going to select the faces that are touching those points, which are the invisible ones. And if I move them, I guess I can't move them because they're moving everything else. The point is you can press delete, and it's going to delete them. Unfortunately, you will have to merge your object afterwards because it's deleted them. But they are gone now. Now what you need to do is you need to make sure this is connected again because you deleted the things that were around it. And to do that, you just click the objects and you click Edit Mesh. Where is it? Merge. I'm looking for merge. I know it's over here. I'm trying to find it on here. Merge. There we go. And any points that are close together are going to get merged at that point. But anyway, yeah, be careful of those little in-between lines that happen when you forget an extrusion. And something that you will run into as well is if you have an object and you're beveling it and you're like, oh, I beveled it, nice. Or even if you increase the segments and stuff, it's like, oh, nice, I did a bevel. Okay, great. You do for sure now have this face here, which is more than 4 sides, if you bevel like this. And you'll have to come back in here and kind of connect them up one more time so that they're in quads like this. All right. That's the main part about cleanup, right? When you're getting these errors and stuff that happen, or if you have issues with your model that you can't see, you have to go through and clean up the model, right? That's cleanup. That's getting rid of problems. Now, what is optimization, right? So optimization is making the model get rid of detail which isn't doing anything, or which isn't necessary, or which is too high for what you're doing. So for example, like here, if I had like edges like this, here, maybe an edge here, and an edge here, they're not doing anything. They're not actually helping the model in any way. They're not changing the shape of the model. These details have no detail. So we remove them. If you remove something and it has no change to the model whatsoever, then it wasn't necessary for the model. It's not needed there. It's adding resolution, which the computer will have to calculate. And you might say, okay, look, man, like another 100 faces, even 100,000 faces isn't gonna break my computer. So what's the problem? The problem is that we're not working for films. We're working for games. And games don't have... First of all, games run in real time, which means they're not being rendered in a render farm somewhere in like Texas or whatever the Silicon Valley is. I don't actually know. They're not being rendered somewhere on a million PCs, which then turns into a video and you watch the video. They're running actively on your computer, being calculated constantly, every single like frame. And that's a lot of... that requires power, you know? So the more details you put in, the more textures, the more everything, the more it has to calculate. Now that doesn't matter too much like at the moment, and I don't want you guys to make stuff that's low resolution and crap. You know, I want you guys to actually make stuff that's detailed and good. But it is important and good practice to not put in details which aren't needed. Because yes, okay, this object, I've done it pretty efficiently. It could be less as well. It could have less detail, and I am actually going to lower the detail and show you the difference. But let's say that hypothetically I get this thing like 20% lower. You know, I get it just 20%. Okay, so imagine if every single object in my game, and let's say I have like 200 objects in a level or something, which is actually not that much. I'll probably have more. But let's say hypothetically, I have 200 objects in this level, and the level is like not optimized, and it's like 40,000 polygons or so. It's 40,000 tries or something crazy, which is the usual for high resolution game scenes actually. But let's say it's like 40,000. If I optimize every single object, which I should have done in the first place anyway, and gotten rid of things I don't need, made things, you know, look how they're supposed to from the distance that we're looking at them, that's 20% less. That's 80,000 tries that I can save, which is a lot. 80,000 tries is a lot. 80,000 tries is like 3 high resolution characters, or at least 2 high resolution characters. And, you know, that's a lot. That's 2 characters you can have in the game more, just like player characters, you know, or high resolution characters, if you just optimize the scene. So, you know, stuff like that. So how do we optimize? Well, there are certain things that you can do. For example, cylinders are really diabolical for just using a lot of tries. You know, this whole helmet is almost 500 tries. Just one antenna is almost 400. My antennas together, which are pretty simple shape, are bigger than the whole detailed helmet that I have here. And I have a lot of cylinders in this guy. Now I'm gonna duplicate my bot here, and I'm gonna call him optimizing. So that I just work on a copy and I have my original there, so it's safe. So what can I do here? So obviously, like, if you ever delete something and it changes the shape of your model, that means you're not supposed to delete that. It's not supposed to change it so drastically. But deleting stuff that isn't changing the model's look very much at all is okay. So for example, let's focus on the helmet again. I have all of these lines going around here, but if I delete them, I'm getting these like problems here where now I don't have these I have these 5-sided shapes now, and I have errors, right? So what do? I need to figure out how to fix these little problems without having this go all the way around. In the meantime, I could actually just turn on symmetry so it's quicker. I actually just delete with Control Delete these ones so that I make space. Excuse me. Because it's not changing the model, right? So I can delete these. I'll delete these as well. I'm not doing anything. I'll delete these. And now I need to figure out how to clean up this area so that it doesn't have to go all the way around, but it also still is safe and it isn't causing problem. So one way I could do that is I could just close them in. Let's actually just delete all of this. Okay, now let's figure out how to fix it. So here, you just grab this from the corner, and I could just make it go all the way up to here. Put it here. And my issue was before that it's creating this annoying crease. So instead of that, sometimes you just have to put up with it and be like, all right, I'll make it go up to here, you know, and that's okay. Still make it a crease. Dang, that's annoying. In this situation, I'm almost like, oh, just do it how it was. Just leave it how it was. I think I'll leave these and I'll just do this instead. Because that's not a bad compromise, this here. It's not much detail, and it's a decent cleanup of that issue, so I'm fine with leaving that where it is. The ones here are going to be a little more tricky. I could do this. I could grab this to this point and then put it down to here. And that's cleaning it up a little bit. And here I could put this. Oh, and now we can actually do this. We can clean this up like that. And the rest we can just put as triangles going towards this point, and that's okay. And that's a lot less detail now going around. It's not needed. Here also I kind of want to smooth these. Why can't I select it? Go edge. There's something in here. What's in here? Oh, what's this? Look at that. Wow. Yeah, let's get rid of that. Jeez. See? Little errors. You will have them. And look here as well. we have a point here. Excuse my slightly not healthy sounding voice at the moment. Okay, that's that. Here, the rest of it is pretty okay. In the middle, this is holding detail as well, so we'll leave that. Yeah, so the helmet is kind of looking all right now. It's gotten rid of these extra things. Let's go down to... Actually, let's go to the antennas. So the antennas, I'm not sure. I already reduced them a little. I don't know whether I should reduce them anymore. I think they look okay. I don't really have a problem with the resolution. And this guy isn't too high resolution at the moment anyway, so I might leave it. Let's try and see. So here's the thing, like looking at this character from here, there's no difference between these two antennae, even though I just removed one. From above, it's a little jagged. You know, from above I can say, okay, well, it's not a perfect circle anymore. So, you know, ideally, if I'm looking at it from this distance, I would probably want to keep it circular because it's not very high resolution anyway, and it's not a problem. But if I was looking at this character from like here, or let's say we're playing an RTS game, you know, if we're playing an RTS game and you see the characters from here all the time, most of this is too high resolution, honestly. But let's just pretend that you almost never see this character this close. He's a character that kind of stays at a distance. In that case, there's literally no legible difference between these two, and there's no reason to keep the detail in the other one, you know? Same for the antenna itself. Like we could actually do it for, I'm gonna use a little trick here just to speed up time. Let's do this again. Don't worry about it. So again, like if we're looking from here, now this antenna combination is only 190, this one's 380. So we've literally lowered it by a third, you know? But you can't see a difference. However, I do want to be able to see this guy from up close, like this. So I think I am gonna bring those details back because I want to be able to see this guy from a little bit up close, and he's already not too high resolution. So I'm not gonna worry about that too much, even though I hate having really high resolution cylinders like this. Although I think this one for sure needs to be reduced because this one's tiny, you don't see it. Let's do that. There, I feel better now. At least this one's lower. Let's go to the ear. The ear as well, like I want this to have a very big round shape. This is a very rounded character. Most of these details I will probably just keep because I want him to stay very rounded. And I've optimized this quite well already. There's not too much that needs to be lowered. Maybe like these ones potentially could be lowered. Let's give that a go. Every nth, actually, like this. And like I said, if you're looking at it from here, this is actually better, but those aren't major issues. Now, let me show you an example of major issues that I have seen in the past. Issues that I've seen in the past. For example, I've seen cylinders like this that are this thin and this big, and they're like connected to some part of the character or something. And I'm like, oh, okay, you've got like this bit, it's connected like here or something. I can't properly see it yet. I'm like, oh, you've got like this bit connected, and then I click it, and it's like, bam, it's like the Matrix or something. It's like all of this detail just for this little piece here. It just doesn't make sense. It's not necessary. Other things I've seen is people, this is more of a modeling problem, but it kind of just is a problem for everything. I for real once saw someone making a room like this. They put in the details for, they would model a room literally like this. They're like, okay, now I want the thing, and now I'm gonna want to make a chair. So I'm going to make the legs for the chair. I'm not joking, this is something that I witnessed. They're like, okay, so now I've made the legs for the chair. They're coming out of the wall. Like, what is this kind of weird abstract art that's going on here? We're not doing that sort of thing. Another issue that you kind of have to clean up and optimize is faces you can't see. So if there's something that you are never going to see because it's inside something else, you need to get rid of it. So for example, this is our neck here. Let me look at it in isolation. Oops, click the face instead. The neck has these caps which don't do anything. They're not visible. They will never be visible. So we're removing them because they're never going to be seen. So go through your model and make sure that you don't have any pieces of objects that you're literally never going to see ever and therefore need to remove. And usually this comes in the form of when pieces are sticking out of other pieces. And this is something that all of you should go through and check. And you can see that I have a lot because I haven't been cleaning up or optimizing as I go. Even the head here, I'm never going to remove this helmet. This helmet will never be removed. So I don't need this top part of the head. It will just never be seen, and it's just going to take up space on your UVs afterwards anyway. This is why I remove the inside of the helmet as well, because you're never going to see the inside of the helmet. These things too, I'm never going to see the bottom of this. Face, get rid of it. And I'm never going to see the bottom of this. And I'm going to go for it, I'm actually going to optimize this. And I want to show you the difference of the before and after. This. Get rid of that. And you only need to do one side as well if the other one is mirrored. You don't have to do both sides. So this is all combined, but I know for sure that if I double click this, in here we still have one like that as well. And this one will be one as well. Looks like it's going to be a little longer than a half hour, which is fine. This is fine, this is fine. This is not, because the bottom will never be seen. What about the top? Is the top going to be seen? Possibly a little bit. This thing I've already done. I've gotten rid of the inside and the bottom one as well. This thing in the middle, the body, I don't think I have. But I want to keep it in there because I think potentially I could animate it doing fun stuff. But maybe not. We'll see. I'm leaving that in there for now. And all of these legs as well, you can see. These legs potentially I could actually reduce as well. And in fact I think I will. Let's see if there's a difference between reducing them and not reducing them. There's pretty much no difference. There's almost no difference between the two, except that this one has 200 and this one has 80 tries. So I think that I'm going to reduce them. Yeah, just selecting every other one, and I just use a little shortcut to do that, which I'll show you how to get in future. That one, this one, I could reduce it. I'm not going to. And actually, I already don't like how this is like. I'm gonna get rid of these ones. See, I just like the detail, man. I just like having detail. You don't need it sometimes. If I was making this for a specific game that needs low resolution, I'd probably be even more. If I was making this for mobile, oh dude, I would get rid of all the details, but I would lower the details significantly. But I'm not making it for mobile, so I'm not worried about that. Okay, that's most of the stuff, and now let's. Yes.
Sorry, hate to interrupt, but
Yes?
I was just wondering how you did the little lines in the screws there.
Oh, the little lines in the screws. Okay. All I was gonna do now was mirror them over and show you the polygon, so that's fine. So I did these with a sphere actually. So if I hide these middle ones, I made a sphere. I put it around here. I lowered its resolution to about 18 and 6. Oh no, it was 6 and 18. What was it? What was it? 8 and 16. Sorry, 8 and 16. Or 16 and 8. There we go. 16 and 8. That's what it was. 16 and 8. It was the half of one of them. And then I rotated it. Or actually, this one's kind of already in the shape. I don't need to rotate it. I wanted this across bit to be in the middle. I didn't want to use this pointy bit. I wanted this across bit. And I positioned it where it would be in the center here. And I scaled it down. And I pulled it in so it's a little flatter. And pushed it through one side like this. Just flattened it and pushed it through one side. And after that, how far did I get it? Don't remember.
Does it ever bother you having mesh inside other mesh?
Well, I actually got rid of it. So I did that. Then I put in these bits, like I showed. And these bits I squeezed in even further.
Oh, I see.
And then I got rid of the extra bits. So all of these extra bits here, if I just remove them like this, get rid of these ones, these ones. Sorry, there's a lady walking outside my window. It's making me really uncomfortable. And I was more careful. I removed it by the border, made it into a little circle, and then extruded it a bit so it goes inside. But doing this works just as well. And actually, this is lower resolution, so this works even better, actually.
Yeah.
And then you just soften it all, and then you just harden these bits because you want them to stand out. And I even grabbed the border ones and I turned in soft selection and I scaled them up a little bit to match the concept a little better.
Oh, I see.
That's how we got this little thing coming from a sphere. Now just mirrored.
Okay, cool. Thank you. It's good to know.
Let's see, where are we? Yeah, I'm gonna delete these legs anyway. And I'm gonna delete this here. And we're just gonna mirror this over in the center. -1. This one we're gonna duplicate and turn this to 90. And then again we're gonna duplicate it, and I'm just gonna put it on the freeze transformation. Last one. Right. So I haven't optimized this massively, but even with the little bit of optimization that I've done, I've lowered it by about 1,000 polys. Whereas the previous one was almost well, not 1,000, but a few hundred. And if I wanted to go even further and optimize these pieces and these cylindrical pieces and these ones here, you know, this would lower a lot. My character, my asset is made of a lot of cylindrical pieces, and also I've modeled it very efficiently already. You guys are gonna potentially have stray bits of edges that aren't doing anything. You're gonna have, you know, stuff you don't need. For now, I needed to show you this and explain this to you because it's important. For now, I do want you guys to just not worry too much about having too much detail. I want you guys to, because what we get happen sometimes is what we regularly get happen is we explain optimization, we explain that it's really important to know how to model things efficiently without too much garbage and stuff like that. And then people end up working in really low resolution the entire time they're here and making really blocky looking objects. So having explained to you how optimization works and what it's for and why games need it, I would like you guys to work, you know, to put in any details that you feel you need. Obviously, I'm not talking about these little, you know, lines and dents and circles because we're going to do that later on in a different program. But when it comes to actually the details of how round it is, how many do I have enough? Does it look like there's enough like lines here to make it look like a screw? Does this look very blocky when it's sticking out of the edge? You know, stuff like that. Put in the detail, make sure it looks good, and afterwards when you're getting feedback, you can reduce it, you can optimize it, you can, and stuff like that, because it's very easy to remove resolution. It's very difficult to put it back in, you know. And that's something to keep in mind. To do with the errors and the fixing of the errors and using the cleanup tool, do that. You got to do that. If you think your model is kind of finished, go through and clean it up. Get rid of problems, you know? And the only last thing I want to mention, which is a really good thing to remember, it's something that one of my lecturers would say. And he would say, if you're ever trying to like remove stuff, like extra stuff from the asset or remove lines you don't need, if you ever see a line that isn't doing anything, if you remove it and the model doesn't change in any way whatsoever and there's no errors as a result either, that's not a line you need. You can remove that line. That's not a line you need. I just noticed this hard edge, right? Okay, so I'm gonna keep this off, whatever. That's the main thing, and that's optimization and cleanup. And what we're gonna do next time is gonna be UVs and Substance Painter. I'm just gonna start going into it. It doesn't matter if you guys aren't there yet. I want to go through it so you guys can see it. You can watch it back again later on when you finally get to that spot, and you can ask any of the lecturers to help you out when you get to that spot if you're not going to be there yet. But I want to show you guys the UVs and the textures because that's going to inform you about how to actually model your assets. That's something you need to know because it will change how you look at modeling, right? So for me, I was working on this a character. I wish I had a picture of it. This little fairy character in my second semester of my first year. You know, this was like literally 7-8 years ago. And back then they didn't teach us the UVs and stuff until 10 weeks in of second semester. So I had modeled like this whole character. I was texturing it back then in Photoshop with all this stuff. And my lecturer comes up to me and says, "Oh, we're gonna have a lecture on normal maps now. We're gonna have a lecture on this texturing stuff, this more advanced texturing stuff, advanced for the time." And after this lecture, I would have modeled my thing completely differently. Now, I've seen how you guys are working, and you guys are not in that same position because you guys are modeling quite well without, you understand, I believe, where to put detail and where not to, and you understand how some things are going to be in the texture. But that's still something I want to cover as soon as possible so you can get through it. When I was a student, we didn't learn Substance Painter until like, I didn't learn it until my third year, I think, or like the end of my second year. So you guys are going to get into it straight away in week 5, which is how we've been doing it recently. And it's turned out, it's a really good change. This stuff, you don't realize how quick you start to learn this stuff. Like a month ago, a lot of you didn't even know what 3D was, you know, or how to do anything in it. Now you guys are making like bikes and axes and robots and cool stuff, right? All right, I'm gonna stop the recording now, and then you guys can go through with questions, and then I can go and review work with anyone that wants to.